All right, ladies and gentlemen, time now for us to move on. And surely it's been a bumper listing for Urban Company, but what also caught our attention is the growing confidence from one of its largest investors, that is Prosus Envy. Just ahead of the IPO, Prosus doubled its stake in Urban Company. In fact, the Amsterdam-based technology group, which is most famous for its stake in Tencent Holdings, now owns over 7% of Urban Company after adding about 4% in the latest deal that's worth over $130 million. And to talk more about this latest development, we now have Ashutosh Sharma, the head of Prosus India and South Asia Investments. Thank you very much, Ashutosh, for taking the time out and speaking to us here on ET now. So definitely Prosus doubled its stake, like I was just stating about, and we'll talk to you about that in just a bit. But let's first talk to you about, let me just turn back the clock, in fact, to 2021. You were amongst the world's biggest tech investors, leading a close to 200 million funding round in Urban Company, which is debuted on the bourses today, and it's drawing overwhelming demand. So today's bumper listing, does that reflect the company's long-term growth potential? How do you see that listing as the investor?
Absolutely. First of all, I think congratulations are due to the team. They've done an amazing job. At that time, Sumita, I think what stood out for us was that this is an extremely hard sector to operate in because the service is non-standard. What a good haircut looks like for you versus what it looks like for me is completely different. And within that sector, here was a team which was able to, on the demand side, have such amazing feedback from customers. They were rated 4.8 of 5 um, in thousands of ratings, tens of thousands of ratings. And then on the supply side, with the gig workers also, extremely life-changing impact is what we saw during our diligence. And that's what got us excited. And that's why we invested in 2021. And I'm happy to share that since 2021, we have invested in every round of Urban Company. We invested even in the pre-IPO, and we are not selling a single share. And that kind of shows our enthusiasm, and that also reflects the promise that the company holds. I think we're just scratching the surface when it comes to penetration in India.
Right, Ashutosh, but will Prosus reduce its stake gradually in the companies that it's currently invested in? That includes Urban Company as well. Will it continue backing these companies for the long term, or are you looking at gradually reducing your stake?
We are in this for long term. Look, I think Prosus is a special investor in that sense, Sumita, because we're not a fund, so there's no pressure to return money to our LPs. We are in this to create next generation revolutionary tech platforms in all emerging economies, India, LATAM. And therefore, with that background, whichever company can show us the promise, we absolutely would love to back them over the long term. As I told you, we didn't sell a single share in the IPO. In fact, we bought more here, and that will be our stance going forward as well.
Right, so essentially looking at long-term investments, but what are some of the biggest risks from online competitors in this space? And you do have new online entrants as well who are offering higher incentives to service professionals.
Yeah, I think, look, this is a very interesting area of operation. Uh, Imagine there is someone who will come to your home and will spend from a few minutes to a few hours inside your home, giving you a haircut, doing some plumbing job, electrician job, and so on. And therefore, trust becomes paramount in this game. And so one cannot, so this is therefore not a pricing game. Not a new entrant cannot just come in and price the job better, and that's how get penetration with customers. Urban Company over the last 11, 12 years has created that trust with the end customer that people today are okay getting someone to their home and that person being around in the home for a long time. And therefore, you never say never. but I think it'd be extremely hard for someone else to gather that level of trust with the customers in India that Urban Company has.
Right, Ashutosh. So you're essentially looking at maintaining that quality to sort of beat competition in the market, given the fact that competitive intensity in this segment is only going to rise. But let's also talk about one of your other companies. You hold a considerable 24% stake in Swiggy, and food delivery is also close to your heart. You've stated that in an interview earlier. How do you see Swiggy's latest move to introduce its affordable offering now towing, given the fact that there is a multitude of companies that are already operating in the food delivery segment? So what's going to be the key differentiator here for towing? Like I said, that competitive intensity is quite high. And of course, food delivery is a high cash burn business.
Yeah. Look, I think so. One of the things that, of course, we all should kind of internalize now that food delivery in India is profitable. Um, I mean, combined, consolidated with quick commerce, one may have a different view, but standalone food delivery businesses are profitable. Now, having said that, Sumita, I think the core philosophy at Swiggy is to provide convenience to a large portion of the population in India. And that convenience comes in many shapes and forms. There is the core food delivery business that Swiggy runs today. But then there is a large section of Indian society for who the pricing of the product is equally, if not more important than the convenience of delivery. And therefore, towing is that initiative in that direction to address that large section of the society which really values price over anything else. And so, in the end, be it crew or towing or quick commerce or food delivery, the core philosophy remains intact as to providing the convenience to a large section of Indian society through various different products that Swiggy is launching, and I'm sure will keep on launching. And that's the beauty. I think, look, let's go back. Let's go back to 20, I don't know, 14 or 15. Swiggy was the only company, or one of the couple, or maybe one of the two, three that was doing first party delivery in India. No one else was doing it. Swiggy was the first one to launch quick commerce in its current shape. And so I think Swiggy has this amazing innovation engine, which is producing these new products, Sumita, and will continue to produce these new products as we see fit and as we see the demand with the customers.
All right, so you're essentially stating that it's difficult to predict whether there's going to be a consolidation in the sector or not, but definitely there are a lot of entrants, especially in the food delivery, in the quick commerce space as well. And since you mentioned about Rapido, well, Rapido is another one of your companies that you've invested in that's making giant strides in mobility and now with only into food delivery in Bengaluru. How do you look at the company's move to diversify into the food delivery space, essentially where cash burn is extremely high? And do you think that's a viable bet for Rapido?
Look, I think it will not be the first time, Sumita. I think if you look at Uber, remember Uber started as a pure mobility business and then they launched Uber Eats. And while I know that Uber Eats has now is now not operating in India, but Uber Eats does operate in many countries across the world. You look at Southeast Asia, Grab comes to mind. Grab has both a mobility
Right.
business and a food delivery business. So there is definitely kind of overlap um, between both the businesses. And therefore, many companies have tried. Some have succeeded, some have not. I think the beauty of India is that it is an extremely large market. And so there is space for more than one or two companies, and companies can take a specific wedge to market creation. And they can use that wedge to create a space for themselves. Now, this is so early in the game that it's hard for me to say how this unfolds, but I think India allows for many players. And as for the combination of food delivery and mobility, this is also a phenomenon that the world has seen elsewhere.
All right. So Ashutosh, you mentioned about Uber Eats, but let's also understand that Uber Eats had to sort of sell off its business to Zomato, given the fact that mobility and food delivery wasn't a viable option. We'll have to see how that bet really plays out for Rapido. But for the moment, let's shift our focus to the other question that I have for you. Essentially, this is about the kind of investments that you've made in some of the buzziest companies in the country in the food delivery and mobility space. You've also made considerable investments in Meesho, Urban Company, but which are the other segments that are of interest to you? AI, you already have some investments, some initial investments that you've made in this space. What about semiconductors, new energy? Because these spaces are garnering a lot of interest. Defense is garnering a lot of interest from investors, from the government as well. But are these segments of interest to you?
Well, this will not be news for you. Of course, you're probably hearing the same thing from everyone. But AI is definitely something that we're um, very excited about, Sumita. And therefore, we have made a few investments. We started with Emma last year. We made two investments this year, Code Karma, Arivihan. And if you look at, and we have a couple more in the pipeline. And if you look at our consolidated AI portfolio, you will see a good mix of software only plays where companies in India are building software and then selling it to kind of customers across the world. But then we also have consumer plays. Because for me, what I am most excited about is that, and I started investing in 2010, Sumit, and at that time I thought the largest gap in India is in the supply and demand of quality education and quality healthcare. And I think until now, we were not able to do that. But with AI, we can really provide customized, targeted quality education and quality healthcare to the Indian masses. Otherwise, how many schools will be built? How many teachers will be trained? It'd be extremely hard. And therefore, I'm very excited. And that's why the investment in Arivehan, and you will see a few more come from us. At the same time, I must say that I'm also worried. I'm worried about the pace at which this space is evolving in US and in China, and what will India's role be in that overall game, and what will India's rightful place be in that overall game. We cannot be left behind in this one.
All right, Ashutosh, let me talk about the overall funding winter that the industry, the startup sector went through a while back. Has that totally abated? And how are investors looking at investing in the current market, especially when there are risks being seen in the markets, in the investment climate due to geopolitical conditions? How are you seeing investors looking at the funding ecosystem as of now? And what are the key priorities that are investors looking at before investing into companies?
I can tell you about Prosus. The geopolitical tensions, tariffs, we're not too worried about that. If you take a 10, 15-year lens, and that is what we take, Sumit. As I said in the very beginning, we are not in this to flip, to acquire, and to sell. We are in this to help support building of generational companies in emerging economies. And if you take that long-term view, 10, 15 years view, I think the growth path at which we are, the quality of our talent, the supportive policies, and the important place that India enjoys in the world order, I think over a long-term horizon, we will do absolutely fine. And therefore, you will see us, even last year, we did 3 large deals, and we will do many more this year. Besides, of course, AI.
Right, Ashutosh, one final question before we let you go. You're going to make big bets as far as AI is concerned. But at the moment, you have invested over $8 billion into the Indian startup ecosystem. How do you see the rest of the year shaping up for Prosus India? And what are you most excited about for next year?
Yeah, I think, look, of course, these the IPOs are important milestones in our investment journey. So we are hoping to participate in some more of these milestones. So that will happen. As I said, AI as an investor, and also to my earlier point, AI as a thought partner to India on how we can change India's AI trajectory will be something, again, very, very important for us. Let me share you one stat with us. There is 150 people that are employed in Prosus in just AI. Our AI team is bigger than our investment team globally. And we probably, as an investor, will probably be the largest employer of AI talent across the world. And so we can actually bring all of that talent to bear um, in India as we move towards kind of AI-led future in India. So I'm still, it's fuzzy. I'm still thinking how to bring that talent and how to bring capital to bear to help India move on this path and not sort of left behind. Investments will happen, of course.